So what's it like to play Riot's new PvE mode? Your first few runs are probably going to look like this. But after about 10 hours, you start stat checking the game. I've played the game quite a bit. I've got everyone unlocked. I've done almost all the quests. I'm only really missing the 3-star quests, and I have everything maxed out except for Anima Power, which is like the endgame gold sync upgrade where you just throw 3k in for 1% in each of these stats. It goes up to 100, and I play 3-star mode pretty much exclusively at this point. So what is Riot's new mode? It's basically Vampire Survivors with the cute League anime-esque reskin to give it more of an appeal to the wider player base. If you've never heard of Vampire Survivors, you're not alone, and the only reason I really know about this game in the first place is because I have a friend that just happens to play it. I think that it's cool though that Riot gives these lesser known game modes, game types, the Riot treatment, which is essentially just making it more approachable to the wider, more casual audience, maybe even. That's kind of what they did with the Dota Auto Chess and now Vampire Survivors. Riot's really good at taking a pre-existing game and making their own version of it, which is better in a lot of ways and more appealable to the wider player base. Literally anyone can just pick up and play it. A completely different pacing and level of interaction, level of attention required than a normal League of Legends game. You don't click to move, you have to use WASD, which can be a little bit weird at first. You can even argue that this game mode, the PvE, isn't really aimed at the same type of players that would play like hardcore ranked League of Legends and trying to go up in rating. It's almost like they're trying to capture a new piece of the market where there's more of a PvE focus, more approachable for just your average gamer to get into something like this rather than playing ranked League for like 10 hours a day. Can we talk about why there's only one male character in the entire cast? It's almost like they're really trying to not only capture the PvE market, but also like appeal to girl gamers almost. I'm not gonna get too into that, so let's just move on. The aesthetic is the Anima Squad theme that Riot likes to do. Personally, not a huge fan of this aesthetic, but I can appreciate it, and I think it looks good. Riot's art department definitely carries them a shit ton. They do a great job on all their projects. Anyways, so what is the experience like for someone who's never touched this type of game before? First thing I want to talk about is how challenging is the PvE really. In the start, it is pretty challenging. The PvE does get overwhelming when you don't have any of your stats upgraded, when you're like at 0 in everything, and your only character is Jinx and Seraphine, and you're just doing no damage, and the monsters are starting to pile up more and more and more. Even in the lowest difficulty, it can get overwhelming for your first couple runs. That's mainly because you don't have access to your upgrades early on, and these upgrades really do make a difference, and you can feel the impact of each one, which we'll get into more later. At first, the PvE, it's not insanely hard like some like Elden Rings type of PvE where you just have to play damn near perfect, but it's challenging enough to where it feels rewarding and it feels like feels interactive. The 2 and 3-star mode is pretty challenging when you first unlock it and you first start playing your first few rounds of it, depending on what your stats look like. But once you get to 3-star mode, definitely requires you to upgrade your stats quite a bit to be able to clear a lot of the really tanky mobs that you'll encounter there. Order that you'll upgrade your stats does differ depending on what character you're primarily using. Last piece I want to talk about for how the PvE feels and how challenging the PvE is the bosses. So there's 4 bosses: Rek'Sai, Bel'Veth, Briar, and Aatrox. The boss mechanics, I really like how they've done the boss fight design. This is our first time really seeing Riot's take on like fight design in terms of a PvE boss encounter, and I do see that they've borrowed mechanics from popular MMOs, like for example Briar has an attack that is very similar to boss mechanics in Final Fantasy XIV, and same one goes with Bel'Veth. I think it's really cool how we're seeing Riot's take on this space. We do have Baron and Vilema, of course, in League. Well, we don't have Vilema anymore, but those boss mechanics are nowhere near as complicated and interactive as what we see in 3-star difficulty Swarm, for example. Really fast-paced mechanics, and I like how the flow of the fight, the boss fights, feels. Yeah, my favorite two bosses to fight are Rek'Sai and Briar, just because of how much you have to pay attention in the fight, and any small mistake and you and your friends just wasted like 20 minutes grinding to the boss just to die, like on 3-star mode or something. So it feels intense, and playing with the stack is definitely very enjoyable in this PvE mode because you'll have a lot of intense PvE moments with friends, and it's just a lot of fun.
Oh, MF on us, MF on us. Right there in the bottom, like bottom side. Go under. Oh, you're cooked. You're cooked. Did he disappear? Oh, that's MF. That's FF.
I was told there's MF here!
It disappeared! I can't control that. I promise. I was not trolling. I got a minute death timer, bro.
Alright, GG. Hold.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, I think this one's a surrender and retry, bro.
Oh my god, our mission failed. No.
I think this one's a surrender. Two are dead.
You FF? Oh my god, we can FF.
I think the PvE is well tuned. The level of challenge is appropriate for what they were trying to accomplish with this mode, so I think it's good. Moving on to the next topic, the characters, the upgrade panels help a ton with the replayability factor of the game mode. Each of the 9 characters, they have 3 different abilities. They have your auto attack, which is your basic attack that just goes off every few seconds. And then you have your E, which is an ability that's normally on a shorter cooldown. And then your R, which is your ult, of course, has a longer cooldown and more impact. So there are melee and ranged character archetypes, and for melee there's the tanky type and the DPS type, and for range there is the support type and the DPS type. Different styles of characters lead to different playstyles, which is really awesome. Of course, everyone can find a character that they feel comfortable with playing. The constant prompts to upgrade your stats and items and abilities and all that stuff is very, very interactive. We all know that Riot likes to do the 3-panel upgrade type of gameplay design like they do in TFT Arena and like pretty much all their game modes besides regular League. It's done really well in this mode as well because of how impactful each upgrade feels, and you get a ton of upgrades throughout the course of the game. You probably get like 30 to 40 times where you're gonna have to choose one of the 3 upgrades in a game, and each of these times it feels pretty impactful. And also there is a little bit of strategic decision making when you're choosing your upgrades, because each character has a certain stat that they like. Each of the items has a certain stat that it likes in order to evolve it. There is a bit of strategy involved, which is really, really cool for this type of otherwise mindless PvE, mob massacring type of game. Having that twist in there is really, really fun, and it helps a ton with replayability because each run is going to be slightly different than previous runs. Even though you're playing the same character and playing towards the same strategy, all of your runs are going to feel at least slightly different, and that is really fun. That sort of roguelike gameplay design where each run is different is just really good for making me want to play another game, really. Another thing is when you gather gold in game, you can spend that gold in the lobby screen to get the upgrades shown on screen. Once you have everything maxed out except for Anima Power, that one's going to take a pretty long time to max out. It's a little bit questionable for gameplay balance purposes because it does feel a little bit stat checky. It feels significantly easier even in the 3-star modes once you've got everything maxed out, which I guess is by design because they want it to feel impactful when you buy these upgrades, which is nice, but it does kind of take away from the end game experience a little bit when there isn't anything that goes beyond 3-star maps for now. But again, that's not very relevant. That's just me nitpicking. It's really not going to affect the overall player base too much. If you are just leveling up your stats early on, gold is really good because it essentially just helps you level up your stats in the lobby quicker. So if you're just starting out in the mode, it might be worth investing 3 points in gold, getting that maxed out early, and then using that to get everything maxed out a little bit quicker. That's what I personally did, and I'm not sure how much of a difference it really makes, but I'd be willing to bet that it's a pretty effective strategy if you're going to try to 100% the game. I would say that once you have everything unlocked and you have all the characters and you've beaten all 4 maps on 3-star, then you've pretty much beaten the game. It's a good amount of free content for basically a free league update that just came out. It's a ton of content for essentially a free update. Overall, it is a very well-designed mode. It works well. Minimal bugs, minimal optimization issues overall. It's actually really, really relaxing to play. And once you've got the hang of things, once you've got some upgrades going, it's really relaxing. Strategic gameplay taking a backseat and mindless grinding taking a primary focus. I think it is pretty fun to play. Especially with friends. Would I recommend playing it solo? Maybe not. It kind of loses a lot of its charm. But if you have even just one friend to play with, or even just queue for the matchmaking, I think it's pretty worth it to give it a try. The game mode ends on August 19th, and with the amount of content that's currently in Swarm right now, that should be plenty of time to 100% the game if you don't burn out on it first. The game mode has been pretty well received overall, so I wouldn't be surprised if they make this a bit of a mainstay, kind of like Arena has become. So that would be really cool if they just had more game modes. Like if this was a permanent mode along with TFT, just to give more variety and options for people that sit in the League client all day, that would be really awesome, and I would love to see that. But anyways, that's my yap session on Swarm. Had a ton of fun playing through the game and just beating everything, killing all the bosses, having fun with the new content. So yeah, wonder what you guys have to say about Swarm. Leave it in the comments down below. Who is the most OP character? That being said, thanks so much guys for watching the video and hanging out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.